Thank you very much. Absolutely. So leaders should not ring fence themselves without having access or people having access to them. It's about providing an enabling environment where people have a voice, right? And they can speak freely. And obviously, it's also about ensuring that, we yield the stick when we have to and we give the carrot when we have to across board. So there's fairness in how we treat people. So let me go straight to a question that we have here. And it's really about, because building those relationships is also about providing support for individuals. So, how can workplace relationships provide a support system during challenging times? I mean, if we look at where we are today, people are going through the most. So, Ebenezer, if you could please take that question for us. How can workplace relationships provide a support system during challenging times?
Okay. First of all, like I mentioned earlier, right? The workplace is where you spend more than 50% of your time, right? For majority of us. Sorry. So I think okay, I'm not going to give a story of what we do actually in my current team where I currently work in Oando. Something we do, I think it's very something every team should actually adopt. We have a weekly meeting on Mondays, and when you come into the meeting, before we discuss anything work, we asking how are you. I will not asking how are you, and then we expect the usual I'm fine, right? We're asking how are you, how's the weekend, what did you do, go into details, right? I went to the beach. Oh, I cried. Blah blah blah. No, those kind of things. Just to see where your mind is at before, and that goes around the entire team. Nothing related to work. If you did work, we're all gonna joke about it. Oh, you worked over the weekend. Sorry about that. It's the work. Blah blah blah. Right. So I think that's something every team can actually adopt first of all, just to ensure that everybody's mental health, everybody's their mental space is safe before you start discussing work. But particularly to the question, like I said, you spend more than 50% of your time with your work colleagues, and you talk to them the most, right? I understand Fumi's point of I try not to make friends. Or my intent is not to make friends in the office, but my own personal approach is to not to make friends passive, but to be friendly in the office. In the instance where I have 24 hours and 10 hours out of 24 hours, I'm speaking to my colleague, right? I may as well just find some hours out of that 10 hours to just speak to them about my problem, right? It may not be, I mean, for those that are willing and open to listening, those that have not set boundaries against listening to people personal issues, right? Just share. You may not have a solution for me. Just to onboarding myself may just be enough, right? To provide some sort of support for me. Also, speaking out in the workplace would then also, lead your colleagues to know how to treat you. They know what you're going through. If there's a lot of pressure going on in the work, they may then offer to take some of this pressure off you. That's a support system. Your superior also may go easier on you for quote unquote. May go easier on you on deliverables, tight deadlines, just because they know what you're going through, right? And yeah, so that's it in one sense. Also, I think company culture actually, culture and assistance program can actually be a very good support. Employee assistance program are there social subscriptions that for companies that provide them just help you emotionally, your mental health, and all of those. So I think there's a lot the workplace and the work environment can do to support employees. You spend majority of your life, working for a company. They may as well, just devote some little resources to also, make sure you're all right to deliver the work they're asking you to do.
Thank you very much, Ebenezer. So obviously, the company, the organization does have a key role to play in terms of supporting individuals in the workplace, and that is really part of the mission of Better Life to ensure that workplace wellness is prioritized not just by the individuals but by the organizations themselves. And for me now, I do have a question for you, Fumi, and I'll read. It says, "Do I need to be a people pleaser in order to be loved? How do we actually make people understand that we can't be friends with everyone in the office without them feeling bad?" Fumi, that's your question.
Okay. So I'd like to say that in as much as I'm not at work to make friends, I understand that I spend a lot of time at work, and so I'm polite. I greet people and I don't discriminate, right? So I can crack a joke with a driver, with a boss, so it doesn't necessarily mean that I don't talk to anybody. I'm just in my space. So that's the first thing. For me, I believe that when you go to work, the value you add speak for you. So I don't believe in people pleasing, because I believe that people pleasers maybe feel they don't have any other thing to offer. That's why they're trying to please people. And I just believe that, focus on why you are there. Learn how to communicate on the things that you do so that people see the value you're bringing to the table. But over time, your value will speak for you. So there are times when, yes, you may be adding value and it may seem like nobody is appreciating you, but keep doing the right thing, keep putting in the work. The time you're spending pleasing people to get favors, if you put that in working, you'll be developing yourself, developing capacity, and then you are preparing yourself for, your next move, your next step. Because what happens, I mean, in 2 years, I'm having a new MD in 2 years, right? So 2 MDs in 2 years. So if I spend time pleasing one MD and then he moves, then I have to start spending time pleasing another MD, and then it's a lot of work, because you just never know what is going to happen tomorrow. So why don't you allow the value that you are adding or creating speak for you? But at the same time, understand that in as much as you're not at work to make friends, you are not mean, you're nice, you're pleasant, you're respectful. So people come and talk to you, you talk to people, but sometimes you don't have to engage in every conversation. And really, one thing that I find is very important is for everybody to be self-aware and understand who they are. I believe that the moment you start understanding who you are, you get comfortable, doing things that do not violate your conscience, if I may put it that way. For example, if you're a reserved person, you cannot be competing with outgoing people. So you will be very frustrated if, as a reserved person, so I'll even give an example. There was a time when I was working, I'm reserved, even though I'm in marketing, but yeah, still reserved. And I had a colleague who was just the opposite of me, and she had joined the company about 2 weeks before I got in, and she knew everybody from the first floor to the last floor. She could engage with just anybody, and I was like, wow, this is good, but that wasn't me, So thanks to her, I did get to meet a lot of people. I warm up to people, but it takes me a longer period, right? So I did get to warm up to people and all of that, but I still maintained who I was. I'm not trying to be in every conversation. I'm not trying to be somebody else. It's exhausting. If you are somebody who is reserved, you know that the more you talk and all of that, the more you're depleting energy. So I could not compete, but just by virtue of who I was, so I'm a calm person. I'm somebody that people can talk to. I'm a good listener. So I understand what I have and I work with it. So I don't have to please anybody by trying to be who I am not. I just generally tend to focus on why I am there. So if we're working on a project, what can I do to make this thing move forward? And I will go the extra mile, meaning that I don't care if it's not part of my JD. If it will help us move forward, I'm, there for you, but I'm not there to please you. So over time, you will like me or not. You may like my personality or not. We may get along or we may not get along. That's fine. But as long as we're focused on why we are there, we would try as much as possible to come together to do our job. Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that for me. So we've talked a lot about the office, and we know that some people on this webinar may potentially be remote workers or hybrid workers. So I'm sure they would be keen on knowing where I don't have that physical interaction with a team, how do I then sort of foster those relationships? So Ebenezer, how do you foster meaningful relationships in remote or hybrid settings?
Oh, this is a difficult one because naturally I prefer working in the office for some weird reasons, regardless of whether I'm Gen Z or not. I mean, they say Gen Zs are the ones that want remote work, but I'm a Gen Z that, that prefers to work in the office. But I think that's because I prefer physical relationship than virtual relationship, just to put a physical touch to things. But regardless of my what I prefer or not, I think in an hybrid setting, it's definitely more difficult to build relationship than in a physical setting, right? Because I mean, it's just that's just how it is. But I think it's just making use of that time when you work. If you're in an hybrid setting where you only interact virtually, I think it just makes you just have to leverage the tools that you have, right, to build that relationship. If it's using Slack or tools like that, just interact more with your colleagues. It'll take a lot of time because you would have to speak to your colleague. You have to reach out. You're not right beside the colleague where you can just throw a jab or two once in a while where the work is not intense. You would have to put in the work there just to create that space. And I think there are a lot of things that can be done using those sort of tools, Slack, and the like. It's just to leverage those tools to build it. And if you are the one that you're fine with building a relationship with work colleagues outside the workplace, right? It's something to also take forward. But I think if purely in the office, it's just to leverage the tools that the organization provide to interact with colleague as often as possible.
Thank you very much, Ebenezer. So it's about leveraging the tools available to ensure that those social connections are built and they are kept vibrant. Musa, so now we've talked a lot around building those relationships, strong relationships. Based on your experience over the years, what skills or qualities would you say are essential for building and maintaining strong workplace relationships?